Namaste children, welcome back again to this virtual class. So in the last episode we have revised the first chapter, that is the chemical reactions and equations. So moving further, in today's episode we will be revising the second chapter, that is the acids, bases and salts. So when we talk about this chapter, there are certain important points that has to be kept in mind as far as examination is concerned. So let us revise this chapter and we cover most important topic which is very important for the examination. So when we start revision process, first thing that has to be learned is the acid. So we know that acids and bases can be tested by tasting. We know that the acids are sour in taste and the bases are bitter in taste, but we cannot test acids and bases, all the acids and bases, by tasting, because some of the acids are very powerful, right? Some of the bases also very powerful, that cannot be tested. Such powerful acids and bases cannot be tested by tasting. So in order to test for the presence of acids and bases, we use indicator. What is indicator then? Indicators are those substances which indicate the presence of acids and bases by changing its color. Usually we use litmus as an indicator, acid-base indicator to test for the presence of acids and bases. When blue litmus changes into red, we call it as it is acid. So in acidic medium, blue litmus changes into red, and in basic medium, what happens? The red litmus changes into blue. This you always keep in mind. Apart from litmus paper and solution, there are various other indicators that also be used. Phenolphthalein is one of the indicator, methyl orange is one of the indicator. All these are synthetic indicators, and some of the natural indicators, China rose is there, and turmeric powder is there. All these are the natural indicators. You must have studied in the lower classes and also in the previous learning. Apart from these indicators, there are indicators which change its order in acidic and basic medium. Such indicators are called olfactory indicators. So here olfactory indicators are the vanilla is there, onion is there, clove. All these are the examples of olfactory indicators. So when we talk about indicators, you should know the synthetic indicators, in the acid base indicators, then the color change, what color is changed in acidic and basic medium. This sort of information you should know, and particularly you should know what is olfactory indicator. So what is olfactory indicator? Olfactory indicators are those indicators which change its order in acidic and basic medium. So some of the examples are also there about olfactory indicators, and the examples of olfactory indicators are already there in your textbook. You can go through the examples as well. Dear students, once you know how to identify for the presence of acids and bases by using indicators, you should know some of the basic acids and bases that are used in the laboratory. So some of the laboratory acids are hydrochloric acid, and its formula also you should know, right? So HCl, it is the formula of hydrochloric acid. I'm just writing the molecular formula, so the same thing is there in your textbook also. And the sulfuric acid, H2SO4, is the sulfuric acid, and nitric acid. These three are the acids available in the laboratory. And also one more acid we should know, CH3COOH, we call it as acetic acid. So all these are the acids which are available in our lab. And when we talk about bases, there are some of the bases available in the laboratory. They are sodium hydroxide, NaOH, calcium hydroxide is another, then third one is magnesium hydroxide. All these are the bases available in the lab. So when we talk about acids and bases, at least 3 or 4 acids you should know and its molecular formula, and also you should know the molecular formula of some of the bases, because we are going to learn about acids and bases throughout this chapter. So some of the acids and bases you should know. You must know the molecular formula of all these acids, so that you will understand the remaining portion very clearly. Let us understand the chemical properties. As far as this chapter is concerned, 2 chemical properties are very important. The first chemical property is what happens when acids and bases react with metal. So a general reaction we can see here, when metal reacts with any acid, then here we will get metal salt, corresponding metal salt plus hydrogen gas is evolved, right? This is the general equation. So this you should always keep in mind, that whenever metal reacts with acid, we get metal salt and hydrogen gas is evolved. Suppose if in case of metal, if we take sodium, when sodium reacts with the hydrochloric acid, then we will get sodium chloride, it is the corresponding metal salt and hydrogen gas. If magnesium reacts with the sulfuric acid, then we will get magnesium sulfate and hydrogen gas. So we can see here that in all the cases, whenever metal reacts with the acid, we get corresponding metal salt and hydrogen gas. So this is one of the important thing. So always you remember the general equation, that is metal plus acid gives metal salt and hydrogen gas. Here one thing remains constant. What is that? It is hydrogen gas. In all these cases we get hydrogen as one of the products. So we can say that when metal reacts with acid, a gas is evolved, that gas is hydrogen gas. And here particularly one type of question is asked in the CBSE examination, that how can we prove the evolution of hydrogen gas in this chemical equation. So a separate proof is there, it is there in your textbook also. So in order to prove this, how can we prove? In order to prove this, when we have to bring the burning matchstick near the test tube where the chemical reaction is taking place. Suppose for example here, this is the test tube where the chemical reaction is taking place. Let us take an example of zinc. Here we are taking zinc. When we add hydrosulfuric acid, what happens as a result of chemical reaction? We get zinc sulfate, right? Zinc sulfate and hydrogen gas will be evolved, right? Now if we bring a burning matchstick near the mouth of the test tube, then it burns with a pop sound. Here pop sound indicates that the gas so evolved during this chemical reaction is hydrogen gas. So this way the first chemical property of acids can be understood. Similarly here we have taken acid, right? So when metals react with the base, when metals react with the base, then metal metallic salt will be formed. Here metal metallic salt, metallic salt and hydrogen gas will be produced. Now you can see this chemical equation, right? So this is one of the most important chemical properties of acids, right? Now we see the second chemical property. This is also very important. Let us understand the second chemical property with an example. What is that? What happens when metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate? Here when metal carbonate or metal hydrogen carbonate react with acid, then what will we produce? Here we will get corresponding metal salt plus carbon dioxide plus water will be produced. Now we will take an example to understand this. When metal carbonate, in place of metal carbonate we can take sodium carbonate. In case of metal hydrogen carbonate we can take metal hydrogen carbonate. In both the cases what we get, you see here, when metal carbonate, sodium carbonate react with hydrochloric acid, we get sodium chloride, carbon dioxide and water. The second equation, when metal hydrogen carbonate, that is sodium hydrogen carbonate also called as baking soda, reacts with hydrochloric acid, again metal chloride, it is sodium chloride, carbon dioxide and water is produced. This is one of the most important chemical property which are very often asked in the CBSE examination. And here one more question is asked. Here carbon dioxide gas is evolved, right? In all these cases you can see carbon dioxide gas is evolved. How can we prove for the evolution of carbon dioxide gas? Here in the earlier case we have seen, by bringing burning matchstick we proved the evolution of hydrogen gas. Here the evolution of carbon dioxide gas can be proved in another way. How can we prove? In order to prove this, let us take an example here. When carbon dioxide gas, here the evolved carbon dioxide gas is passed through a freshly prepared calcium hydroxide, that is lime water. Calcium hydroxide is also known as lime water. Then the lime water turns milky due to the formation of calcium carbonate. Got it, children? Now calcium carbonate, it is also known as chuna, we call it, right? So the calcium carbonate is white in color, whereas the calcium hydroxide, which is lime water or we call it slaked lime, when carbon dioxide is passed through slake lime, the solution, it is a colorless solution, it turns into milky, that is white in color, due to the formation of calcium carbonate. So by this way we can identify, we can confirm for the presence of carbon dioxide in this equation. No other gases can turn lime water into calcium carbonate, only carbon dioxide changes lime water into calcium carbonate, that is white precipitate. So this way we can confirm for the evolution of carbon dioxide gas in this equation. So these are the most important chemical properties of acids and bases. So this thing is already there in your textbook. You practice all these chemical equations, which you will find it very useful in the examination. The third important chemical property is what happens when acids react with base. Very important and very interesting to understand this. What happens in general reaction, we will write when base react with acid, we will get salt and water. We will get salt and water. This is the general reaction you should keep in mind, that is base. What happens when base react with acid? We take any example here, sodium hydroxide we can take. Sodium hydroxide when react with acid, you can take any acid. For simplicity I am taking here hydrochloric acid. We will get sodium chloride, which is salt, and here we will get to water. This is the general equation which we can use it for any acid and base. The main thing is when base react with acid, always we get salt and water. This reaction is called neutralization reaction. Why? Because here it is a base and this is the acid. The product what we have obtained is neutral. So as a result of the chemical reaction, we are getting a neutral product. So the reaction we call is called neutralization reaction, right? Likewise, similar other chemical reactions we have to see, that is what happens when metal oxide react with acid, right? Then what happens when non-metallic oxide react with the base? You see here, metallic oxide always react with acid, not with base, because you should know metal oxide is basic in nature. Why? Because in the first chapter you have seen while burning magnesium ribbon changes into magnesium oxide. When the magnesium oxide is dissolved in water, if you test for the chemical nature, then it will turn red litmus blue, indicating that the product so obtained is basic. So always you keep in mind that all the metallic oxides behave basic in nature. So, or we can say that all the metallic oxides are base. Base will not react with base. So base always react with acid. We know that when base react with acid, we will get salt and water. Same product we are going to get, that is salt plus water. We can take an example here to understand this. Magnesium oxide when react with any acid, we can take sulfuric acid I am taking here. So we will be getting here magnesium sulfate plus water. We can take some other example too. Here sodium oxide when react with the hydrochloric acid, we will be getting here sodium chloride plus water. What is, children? Now here non-metallic oxide with base. All the non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. In order to understand this, for example, carbon is a non-metal. When carbon reacts with oxygen, we will be getting carbon dioxide. When this carbon dioxide is dissolved in water, what will be getting? We will get carbonic acid, which we will see in the soda and the soda water and soft drinks and all, right? When you open the bottle, a fizz sound comes, right? So that is the chemical reaction. When carbon reacts with oxygen, we will be getting carbon dioxide. When carbon dioxide gas is dissolved in water, we will get carbonic acid, right? So which is an acid. Similarly, we can take some other examples also. Sulfur is a non-metal. When react with the oxygen, we will be getting sulfur dioxide. When it is dissolved in water, we will get H2SO4, right? So whenever a non-metallic oxide is dissolved in water, we are getting acid. So we can say that all the non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. So here we can think of the non-metallic oxide as a acid, And when acid reacts with base or base reacts with acid, we will be getting the same product, that is salt plus water, right? So we can take here non-metallic oxide, here carbon dioxide, right? When react with the base, we can take here base as NaOH, we will be getting salt Na2CO3 plus water. Got it, children? So this way we can understand the chemical properties. So when we talk about the chemical properties of acids and bases, the first chemical property is this one. You keep in mind here, when metal reacts with the acid, we will be getting metal salt and water, hydrogen, and the test for the hydrogen gas is bringing a burning matchstick. This you keep in mind. The second type of chemical property is what happens when metal carbonate and metal hydrogen carbonate react with the acid. In that case, we will be getting metal salt and carbon dioxide gas is evolved. Test for this carbon dioxide is, we have to pass this carbon dioxide into a freshly prepared lime water or the slaked lime, which turns milky, is the confirmation test for the evolution of carbon dioxide gas. And one more thing you have to note here is that if you pass excess carbon dioxide, the solution no more become white, it changes into colorless. Why? This is because of this chemical equation, where calcium carbonate once again changes into another product, so we will not be getting, or the solution no more become white precipitate. So this is one of the most important thing you have to understand as far as examination is concerned. And after that, you should know about the neutralization reaction, that is when base react with acid, we are getting salt and water. One of the example, you can take many other examples to understand this, and based on this you have to understand about the metal oxide and acid, what happens when they react together, we get salt and water. In both the cases we can see the similar kind of observation, that is salt and water is produced. The thing is, metallic oxide, you should know it is the basic behavior, and the non-metallic oxides, you should know it is the acidic behavior. So we know that whenever acid react with base or base react with acid, we get salt and water. This concept you keep in mind, then everything will be very easy. So this is about the chemical properties. Let us understand more about what we have to learn in this chapter. So dear students, so far we have revised the chemical properties of acids and bases. Now let us revise, what do all the acids and bases have in common? This is very important. Dear children, all the acids have something in common. In order to understand that, in the chemical properties, what we have seen, when metals react with acid, then in all the cases we have seen hydrogen gas is evolved, right? So we can say that hydrogen is the common thing that all the acids have. So we can say that hydrogen is common in all the acids. So in order to prove this, when acids are dissolved in water, you can see here as hydrochloric acid, it gives a H plus ion and chlorine ion. When sulfuric acid is dissolved in water, we will get 2H plus SO4 2 minus. When we talk about nitric acid, then we will get H plus NO3 minus. So we can see here that in all the acids, hydrogen ion is displaced. So we can say that all the acids are those which displaces a hydrogen ion when dissolved in water. Dear students, here we have written hydrogen ion independently, but as such hydrogen ions are highly reactive, they do not remain independently. So when we are dissolving it in water, when hydrogen ion is produced, immediately the hydrogen ion reacts with the water and it exists in the form of hydronium ion. Let us see how it happens. Here it is a water. During this chemical reaction, when it is dissolved in water, hydrogen ion is produced. This hydrogen ion immediately reacts with the water and forms a H3O plus. We call it as hydronium ion. So this you always keep in mind, that hydrogen ion cannot independently exist. It will react with the water and exist in the form of hydronium ion. When we talk about bases, what is common in bases? When bases are dissolved in water, let us take some of the example. NaOH, when dissolved in water, we will get Na plus OH minus. And one more example, we will take calcium hydroxide. When it is dissolved in water, we will get Ca2 plus OH minus here, 2OH minus. And similarly we can take another example also, magnesium hydroxide, we will get Mg2 plus 2OH minus. So in all these cases we can see very well that what is obtained, we are getting hydroxyl ion. OH minus ion is the common thing in all the bases. So altogether we can say that in acids hydrogen ion is the common thing, and in case of bases hydroxyl ion is a common, right? So this way we can understand. When you are learning this thing, you should know about the concentrated solution and diluted solution. In our laboratory we usually use the diluted acids. Dilute means when water is mixed with acid, we call it acid diluted. So as such, the dilution process is highly exothermic. What is exothermic? Which liberates heat. So highly exothermic, so care must be taken in making dilute solution of any acid. So in this case, examination also some sort of question is asked. Suppose see here, this is acid, we are taking here acid, and this is the water for dilution, right? So in order to make this acid dilute, either we can add acid into water or we can put water into acid, right? This chemical equation is highly exothermic and we should not add water into acid for dilution process. Why? In order to make this acid, any acid, in order to make the concentrated acid dilute, acid must be added into water. Why? Because this reaction is highly exothermic. When acid is added into water, it produces plenty of heat. The evolved heat is absorbed by the water molecule, so it does not cause any hazardous effect. Whereas if you add water into acid, the same process will take place and highly exothermic reaction, more and more heat is evolved. The heat evolved is so vigorous that it can splash out and be hazardous. So always keep in mind that in order to make dilution, acid must be added into water, not the water into acid. Got it, children? So one more thing about the acids and the bases we should know. In order to detect the acid, we can use litmus paper or any other indicators. With those indicators we can test for the presence of acids and bases. But in order to check the reactivity of acids, or how strong the acid is or how strong the basis is, the indicator will not, the indicator what we have used for testing for the acids and bases will not work. The indicators, the litmus paper, phenolphthalein indicator, methyl or reagent, all those indicators are helpful in detecting or identifying for the acid or base. We can test for the acidic or basic behavior, but those indicators won't tell us about the strength of the acid. So how can we measure the strength of the acid? Dear students, the strength of any acids or bases is measured in terms of concentration of a hydrogen ion. So the concentration of hydrogen ion can be known by a scale called pH. Here P stands for potence and H is for hydrogen ion. So if more hydrogen ion is present in an acid, then the strength of that acid will be more. If the concentration of hydrogen ion is less, then we can say that the acid is weak. So the strong acid or the weak acid can be identified in terms of the concentration of hydrogen ion. This concentration, the hydrogen ion concentration, can be found out by using another scale called pH scale. We call it as pH scale, and the indicator what we use is pH indicator, or pH paper is the indicator which is used, which can be thought of a universal indicator. By using universal indicator, that is pH indicator, we can find the strength of the acid and base. And this pH scale has 14 values starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, like that, 7, then here 8, here 13 and 14. Dear student, the acidity or the acidity decreases when we go left to right, and the basic nature decreases from right to left. So we can say here is this is basic, and this is acidic, and this is basic. Now you see here, the substance which have zero value of zero value in pH scale will be highly acidic than the one which has the pH value 1, 2, 3 and so on. Dear students, the value from 0 to 6 are acidic, and if the substance has the value 7, it is called neutral. So this thing you should know. And from 8 to 14, it will be bases. So if the pH value is between 8 and 14 will be base, and the pH value ranging from 0 to 6 will be considered as acid, and the substance which has pH value 7 will be neutral. So this way we can identify the strength of the acid. Once again, keep in mind here that if the pH value decreases, then acidity will increase. If the pH value increases, then basic nature of the substance will increase. So by increasing the pH value, always keep in mind that the basic character will increase. If the pH value decreases, then acidic character will increase, right? So this way we can understand about the pH scale.
Dear students, if you ask, is there any importance of pH change in the living organisms? Then, of course, yes, children. Dear students, the plants and animals can survive only in a narrow range of pH. The pH range of our digestive system is around 7 to 7.8. Subtle change in the pH can affect the normal survival of the living organisms. If the pH of the soil changes, then the plants living in that soil gets affected. Even the plants can die. So maintaining pH either in the soil for the growth of the plants or in the living organism, that is the animals, is very important. When the pH of the rainwater is less than 5.6, it is called acid rain. When acid rain flows into the river, then it can affect or harm the aquatic life forms such as fishes. Dear students, as we know that pH has its own importance in our digestive system too. We know that hydrochloric acid is secreted in our stomach, which provides a medium for the digestion of protein, which we have studied in the chapter the nutrition or the digestive system in human beings, right? If more and more hydrochloric acid is produced in our stomach, then we get acidity. In order to maintain the pH in our digestive system, or if excess acid is produced in our digestive system, in order to neutralize it, we usually consume a base, a mild base, which can neutralize the excess acid produced in our stomach. Dear students, the change in pH can cause tooth decay. Tooth decay starts when the pH of the mouth is lower than 5.5. Tooth enamel made of calcium phosphate is the hardest substance in the body. It does not dissolve in water but is corroded when pH in the mouth is below 5.5. This is because our tooth is made of base, that is calcium phosphate, and the microorganisms which feed on the leftover food in our teeth are eaten away by the bacteria or the microorganisms, thereby secreting some acids. So we know that any acid can react with any base. So our tooth is a base, and the bacteria release acid which attacks the tooth and causes tooth decay. So this way tooth decay occurs. The best way to prevent this is to clean the mouth after eating food. Usually using toothpaste, which are generally basic for cleaning the teeth, can utilize the excess acid and prevent tooth decay. So this is how we can prevent tooth decay by consuming or by brushing our teeth with the help of a mild paste. Apart from this, the animals and plants also use chemical warfare. Here the chemical warfare is the use of acids, the ant sting which uses formic acid. So when during ant bite we get the irritation, right? So that irritation is due to the release of formic acid. We can get rid of the pain and the irritation by rubbing it with some baking soda or any kind of base which can neutralizes the acid. So this is how pH plays a very important role in the living organisms.
So dear students, that's all we have for today's class. If you find any difficulty to understand any of the topic in the revision class, then you can call on those numbers or you can SMS. See you all on another day with a new revision topic. Till then, keep learning, take good care of yourself. Bye.